Who wants to be king?
Since the launch of HBO's Game of Thrones, there has been an unmistakable desire to recreate the success that was enjoyed throughout the show's entire run. One of the most notable and successful shows created since the Game of Thrones debut that also planted itself within the historical niche has been History Channel's Vikings. While many had the knee-jerk reaction that Vikings would simply fall flat as a cheap attempt to ride the coattails of the HBO mega series, Vikings quickly established itself as not only one of the best historical shows on television, but one of the best shows of its time on any network. So stick around today as we're taking a look at the truth to why Vikings is really ending. But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We are giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. The viewership has decreased over the last several seasons. One of the quickest ways for a show to die is if no one is watching. Vikings experienced insanely high ratings through seasons 1, 2, and 3, but viewership gradually fell off, starting in season 4. By the end of season 4, overall viewership was down by almost 50% as compared to the previous season. The show producers had attempted to make light of the decline by brushing it off as streaming services merely offering a wider appeal to viewers and traditional TV shows going by the wayside. While that argument might seem solid, there is more to it than that. Combined with the death of popular characters and storylines that viewers really could not get behind, Vikings has been treading water for some time now and holding on to only the most loyal of viewers. After seeing the writing on the wall, the History Channel announced that season 6 would be the last, even prior to the end of season 5, likely trying to cling on to the viewers they have left who might have been thinking of abandoning the show altogether. The tactic makes sense to try and drum up enough interest to keep their viewership steady for one more run. Is it going to be enough to regain some of their viewers who have stopped tuning in? Time will have to tell. Speaking of controversial deaths, killing a main character is a huge roll of the dice. For any show, killing the main character is a gamble of epic proportions. Unfortunately for Viking showrunners, their gamble simply did not pay off. After killing the main character Ragnar Lothbrok at the end of season 4. Played by the Australian actor Travis Fimmel, Ragnar quickly became a fan favorite and the literal beating heart of the entire series. When you kill the heart of a show, well, it's easy to see what is inevitably going to happen. Fimmel, to his credit, rose from relative obscurity to become one of TV's most beloved characters and stars in his own right. Growing up on his family's farm, Fimmel starred in a few Australian productions before becoming a Calvin Klein model after his move to Los Angeles. The parallel between his personal life and Vikings character is also notable in that Ragnar began as a simple farmer and rose to prominence to lead the Vikings. While no one is going to compare being an actor to leading one of the fiercest groups in history, the rise of Fimmel and his character both display how meager beginnings can still give rise to utter brilliance. Writing for the series apparently became so difficult and the returns diminished so much that writers have actually been on record as stating it is a good thing the show is being put to an end due to its lack of direction since Ragnar's death. A show like Game of Thrones found itself able to kill just about anyone and still have compelling storylines, and the meat of what made the show so enjoyable was always left intact. But sadly, for Vikings, they simply could not move on successfully without Ragnar. Could the writers have done anything different to preserve what made the show so great even after the death of Ragnar? It's easy to say so looking back, but I really do wonder what directions they could have gone in order to make a better storyline post Fimmel. And that was a large issue for the show. The storyline just wasn't very good following Ragnar's death. When writers and producers decide to slam the book shut on a major storyline and character, they'd better be sure they have something top-notch to follow up with. The idea sounded good enough on paper. Ragnar's 4 sons would head to England to seek to avenge their father's death. Unfortunately, the storyline simply fell flat on its face. Vikings creator Michael Hurst was vocal about his desire for viewers to be on board with Ragnar's sons. Hurst spoke at length about how much time and energy he had put into the characters and his expectation that viewers would be very much into following them through their journey. Regardless of Hurst's hopes, viewers simply could not get behind the new storyline. Some news outlets have even gone so far as to completely condemn the show's new direction as simply too boring to continue viewing. And it wouldn't be the first show to continue on as a shell of its former self. Some shows simply keep going on, even when it seems everyone but those in charge know that it's time to move on. Although the 5th season of of Vikings has experienced very favorable reviews, the ratings are still below the previous 4 seasons. Even with reduced viewership and its main character, it's important to note that the show is by no means in jumping the shark territory. However, a show must know when it's simply time to move on, and Vikings has at least made that decision properly. When you look at other shows that have lingered around to their own detriment, such as AMC's The Walking Dead, you'll see that even when a show still has legitimately positive ratings, it has overstayed its welcome when it's completely devoid of any of the original elements that made it so appealing to viewers. When season 9 of The Walking Dead premiered, it had nearly a 50% decrease in viewership from the previous season. And although it still enjoys weekly viewership in the multi-millions, fans who have followed the show from its premiere tend to agree that it is a shell of its former self. So whether or not Vikings has been able to escape that fate of sticking around too long remains to be seen. While many appear to believe that the show is doing the right thing by calling it quits after season 6, some still feel that it is too little, too late. Sometimes a show's strongest quality leads to its end. A huge part of the show's appeal is its historical roots. Very few shows can create a captivating story arc that expertly weaves in fictional elements with a largely factual backbone. Unfortunately, history eventually runs out of material before fiction must take the lead, and Vikings is simply not built to continue without its historical elements. And that's where a huge problem already existed for the show from the first episode. The Vikings have left virtually no written records of their exploits to begin with. Much of what the show has presented has covered all the known historical records already, with a very liberal amount of filling in the gaps done. Notably, Ragnar is not even guaranteed to have ever existed. There are accounts of his and his son's exploits that Hearst used to create many of the storylines included in the show, but there are many different accounts of most major Viking events, including Ragnar's death, that really make it a mixture of fact and fiction. Would Vikings have had the same success as a standalone tale of complete fiction, or was its mass appeal largely due to its historical roots? Next, the storylines that did have promise seemed to never materialize. One of the show's most beloved characters and Ragnar's boat builder, Floki, seemed primed to take a much more prominent role after the farmer's death. But once he aided Ragnar's sons and they avenged his death, he was essentially cast aside for a loosely developed Icelandic adventure that was full of half-baked drama that was unfortunately dragged on for most of season 5. Unfortunately, it seems that Hearst and the writers seemingly ran out of ideas and history for Floki and many of the other characters that could have perhaps injected some life into the series after Ragnar's death and his son's subsequent avenging of his death. It's not like Vikings has produced a season that is something for anyone to be truly disappointed by, but those who have followed from the beginning can't help but feel that their loyalty hasn't been rewarded the way they imagined. But perhaps 6 seasons was enough. While it would be easy to imagine that show creator Michael Hearst would express disappointment in how the show has somewhat fizzled out towards the end, he ultimately conceded that he had told the story he wanted to tell. After 6 seasons and nearly 90 episodes, it would be difficult to argue that Vikings did not enjoy a long run of success in telling a story that many felt they'd known about, only to find that they were learning new things every episode that not only added to the storylines, but left viewers with a sense that they were not only being entertained, but coming away with knowledge at the end of each episode. And while fans have certainly experienced dismay over how the show has been coming to an end, Hearst has insisted that fans get excited for the final 20 episodes, promising a season full of drama, intrigue, and twists and turns that'll leave even the most skeptical of viewers satisfied. We can't help but also feel excited about the final chapter of Vikings. And there you have it, the truth about why Vikings is ending.